I stumbled across a few videos recently that ranked the states that people regret moving to the least. And I was watching with curiosity, and they finally came to the #1 state that people regret moving to the least, which ended up being Colorado, which got me thinking. Over the hundreds of families that we've helped move to Northern Colorado, has anyone really truly regretted moving to Fort Collins, Northern Colorado area? So that is what this video is today. Do people regret moving to Colorado, and specifically Northern Colorado? What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Sukup, and this is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel, where you come to learn and research all the things about Fort Collins and Northern Colorado, doing your due diligence. Now, if you're considering relocating, buying, selling, or investing, give my team and I a call, text, or email. We are licensed real estate agents in the state of Colorado and would love to be an asset on your team. Or if it's easier for you, and if you're one of the 46% of people who watch on TV, scan this QR code to go to an intro Zoom call, Calendly, set it up at your convenience. Now, without any further delay, let's jump into today's video. Do people regret moving to Colorado? Let's go. Now, what we're gonna talk about here is the 5 states that people regret moving to the least, what our personal experiences with over the hundreds of clients that we've worked with, true stories of people who have actually regretted moving here and left. Then from there, why people love living here, then what people do regret when they move here, and then how can you hedge those regrets to make this move, relocation, the best possible deal. Number 1, all right, the number 5 state that people regret moving to least is Arizona. Number 4 is gonna be Virginia. 3 is Washington, 2 is Florida, and number 1, this specific individual suggested to her partner that she was doing the podcast with is, this is a very healthy place, and that is Colorado. Now, I'm born and raised here in Fort Collins, so I don't necessarily have the experience of moving to Colorado, and then some of the people on our team have moved all around, but otherwise, what we do have a ton of experience with is people relocating to the area. Become friends with clients, know their stories, have helped them buy and sell multiple houses since they've been here. And we have looked over and scoured kind of the data of who has moved here and absolutely hated it and either moved away or didn't even tell us and they kind of just left. So that is what we're gonna talk about next. So one of the first stories is we had a family moving here from the Southeast, and they had 2 kids in middle school. The husband was fully wanting to move to the area. The wife was on board. The kids weren't super excited. And when they got here, it just didn't necessarily go very smoothly. The jobs were great. They enjoyed their jobs, but I think the wife really missed a lot of her friends and networks that she had back home, and the kids really didn't jive with the other kids at school, didn't make a lot of friends, and really didn't have a great experience. And after only 1 year, moved away. Number 2, we had a single woman moving here from Montana, and she actually moved to Wellington, and she had a really hard time getting and building friendships and relationships. So she too only lived here a very short while and found herself selling her house and moving back to Montana. Number 3, and this one kind of hit home because, well, it's our very own transaction coordinator, Elizabeth. We love her to death. She is the mom of one of our rock star agents, Izzy, and she moved here from Washington by way of London. So she's used to much bigger cities and also the greenery that is Washington. She doesn't hate it here. She doesn't regret moving here by any means because she's next to her daughter, next to her new grandson. So everything is going smooth, but she's also having a little bit of hard time making friends. So that's been probably her biggest challenge. She's used to a bigger city, so she likes to be closer to Denver so that she can commute down to Denver, get good dinner, get dressed up. And also she likes the greenery, as well as she does think it's a little bit hard to make friends here. So that was a great experience that we have firsthand on our team with Elizabeth. Now, she has no intentions on moving anywhere anytime soon. So hopefully she can build those relationships and learn that Denver, is only about 45 minutes away from where she is now living, which is in Loveland. The 4th story was a single dad who moved here from Florida following his kiddos and also soon to be grandson, but all of a sudden the kids weren't able to find the work that they were wanting to have here, and so moved back to Florida and kind of left him hanging high and dry. So he was actually stuck here for a year or so after they moved. So he was here for a total of, I think, 2 or 3 years, and then finally actually packed up and moved back to Florida with them. So that's a case of having a child here that doesn't necessarily have strong roots, strong foundation to build upon, and then moves to a different location, kind of searching something out, and then the dad followed along behind. And our fifth and final story on this is we had some clients move from California who moved from an actually smaller area in California, moved to Timnath, and didn't necessarily think it was actually much bigger than what they thought it was. So they felt that traffic was actually heavier than they were expecting, and there were more people than they were really thinking there was gonna be here. So I don't necessarily think that was a case of unknowing what the area was like. I just think that maybe when they originally decided to move to Fort Collins, it's changed a bit over the last decade or so, because he had been here a time or two before, spent significant time here, and loved the charm, the small town vibe. But I think it's a much bigger area than what he originally saw and fell in love with. So those are 5 stories out of the hundreds of families we've helped move here, relocate here, buy, sell, rent, all the above in Northern Colorado. Now, that's not to say that there are others who haven't necessarily told us that they, regretted it or hated it or anything along those lines. But generally speaking, what we found is even more than the 80-20 rule. Because I always talk to people when they reach out, I say, you know what? One of the best things you can do is come and explore the area. And we found about 80% of the people fall in love with it again, confirm that they fell in love with it. And 20% of the people, for whatever reason, too small, too big, too far away from Denver, too far away from an airport, whatever that reason is, don't fall in love with it and end up not moving here. But I think it's actually not flipped. I think it's even, the dial is turned up even more when people move here. I would say 90 to 95% of the people who move here fall in love with it. They love the schools, they love the recreation. We'll get to why people love it here in just a second. But ultimately, I think that 90 to 95% of the people who have done the research, due diligence, moved here, do fall in love and really enjoy what they decided to do with their life, moving across country or across the world or across the state. 5 to 10% of the people, for whatever reason, it didn't align with what they were expecting and didn't enjoy the move. So why do people fall in love with it here when they do move here? I think they pour into the culture and recreation. They get outside, they go biking, they go downtown, they get involved with the little festivals, they really pour into the community, both schools, recreation, softball teams. I think we had one client who was on a baseball or softball, a dart league, bowling, and like one other one. I mean, just absolutely poured in. We have another client who absolutely loves soccer. She is really enjoying that, getting engaged with her teammates and all that kind of stuff. So I would say the culture and recreation, when people pour into that, really find themselves falling in love with the area. And number 2, it's a moderate 4 seasons. So yes, I will say mid-January to end of February, I get tired of winter. But that being said, spring, summer, and fall are pretty awesome. You're very rarely gonna see a 100-degree day or north of 100 degrees. You can absolutely see below 0, but very rarely. The sun is awesome, and fall and spring are gonna be just great. Generally speaking, you're gonna be able to get outside for many, many days of the year. My grandpa one year played golf 280 days of the year. So he only missed golf 80 days. That's not to say that he couldn't have played those days, but it's not to say that he could either, but he was out there getting out for golfing 280 days in Fort Collins. I think people fall in love with the community vibe. Now, for some, it's too small of a town. It's too podunk. It's some person commented it on the YouTube channel lately that it would be moving from DC to Fort Collins would be like changing in your smartphone to a flip phone. And I'm not saying that Fort Collins is necessarily a flip phone, but I would say that we have a strong work-life balance. We have people who want to get engaged with the community. We do get excited about the Peach Festival, about the Great Colorado Air Show, about the Tour de Fat, about these festivals in and around the area. Windsor Harvest Fest Roar of the Rockies in Windsor. Those are things that we do get excited about as a community. But it's a small town vibe with a small town feel, but safe, great schools, and that's what people love about the area. They are moving away from a New York or a DC that has sushi available at 2 a.m., but they're moving to an area that is more focused on, I would say, culture, character, integrity, vibes, building that person, whether that's yourself, retired, family, kids. That is the focus. Which leads me into the last one, culture and family life. Fort Collins, it would be one of those things where I've had a lot of friends move out of Fort Collins and came back when they've had kiddos to move into the area and raise their kids. Safe, good schools, amazing recreation, a lot of amenities now actually. When I grew up here, there was not nearly the population that is here now. And with that population growth comes opportunities for competitive sports or alternative recreation or alternative after school programs. That being said, the culture and family life in Fort Collins is something that people truly desire to have and something that I'm grateful to have and definitely will not be moving at least for the next 15 years at this point. Now, what causes regret? I think there are some really common pitfalls amongst people that maybe don't necessarily assimilate very well to Northern Colorado. Number one is not everyone in the family unit is on board, which can be really tough for those that have middle school aged kids that are leaving friends behind. Younger kids, I would say before 3rd or 4th grade, are usually pretty cool about things, but we've had families that have actually built books to introduce their kids to, hey, we're making this big move from Texas to Fort Collins. What is Fort Collins? Where is it? Are we still gonna get to go see grandma and grandpa? Really relieve some of the fear and anxiety from these littles. But otherwise, I would say the husband and wife or partners need to be fully engaged, or at minimum, one needs to be fully engaged and one needs to be 80% with the willingness to be flexible on the other 20 to fall in love with it when the time comes. If that's not the case, that's probably one of the biggest reasons that we do see families and individuals, partners don't like it here, is if one person in the family is just absolutely making it a nightmare to be here. Number two, moving without doing the proper research. I will say that story number 5 is somebody who was here decades ago, who learned the area, fell in love with it, but didn't necessarily update themselves as much as maybe they could have, and came here not loving it. Now, if you're watching this video and if you got to this point, you're doing just that, researching. We have over 500 videos on YouTube that talks to you guys about everything from schools, neighborhoods, things to do in the winter. I mean, hopefully it's a really well-rounded picture of what is Fort Collins and Northern Colorado like. On top of that, coming out, making visits, getting boots on the ground and really learning the area, what it is today and how is the day-to-day operations. But people who don't necessarily do the research, I think might come here with unrealistic or not met expectations. Now, number 3, and I will say this has been successful and also not so successful, buying sight unseen. Now, we are working with clients across the spectrum from people who buy it sight unseen to people who have lived here for 2 years renting and then buy. We have seen it all and we've had success stories on both ends. That being said, sight unseen is really difficult. We get into the properties, we do video tours, we tell you what it smells like, sounds like, what the neighborhood's like, how the area is. We try to give as much detail as possible so that you can feel confident if you are in that position or desire to buy sight unseen. Now, we work with military families all the time who, this is just 4 walls and a roof to them. They just need to make sure that it's a safe, clean, healthy area for them. And other than that, it's a house. So they've done this 10 times. What's the 11th? But that being said, we have had one client from Boston moved here. They were in a pinch. Their lease was coming to an end. They either were going to buy or rent, but they really wanted to buy. So we bought sight unseen. We went through, did video tours. We talked about them. It was a little bit of a fixer-upper. I mean, it was a fixer-upper, priced very well in an extremely competitive time period. And we told them, this is gonna take a lot of work. Here is all of the things that are needing to be done, and try to be as transparent as possible. But the husband and wife moved here. And on the first or second night that they were here, the wife actually broke down and started crying. She didn't realize the scope or the extent of the amount of work that was needed. Now, that being said, these are some of our favorite clients. They moved here. We are still friends to this day. They have done major renovations, bathrooms, flooring, a full new kitchen and living room, and they absolutely love the area. So it was kind of a great rainbow at the end of the, a golden pot at the end of the rainbow type of story. But that is something where if you're buying sight unseen, it can lead to a mismatch of expectations and a poor experience if you don't end up falling in love with that house. And then fourthly, number 4, and this is what sometimes I discover about myself. Why would I want to move? Why would I want to leave? It's because I've got family, I've got friends, I've got 37 years on this planet, all in Fort Collins, that I've built great relationships on the business side, networks. And so I'm very fortunate to have all of these relationships that I've built over decades of being here. But people who move here from out of state, out of the area, might not necessarily be so lucky or extroverted or anything along those lines. Fortunately, there's tools like Meetup, a lot of different recreations. There is a lot of different clubs. There's things to do, bingo, breweries, karaoke night, comedy clubs to go. But it does take some major effort, especially on the front side, and consistent effort to build those relationships. That has been one of the struggles for people that have moved here, isn't necessarily forming those bonds or maybe missing those bonds that they left back home or wherever they were coming from. So those are the 4 things that we see that people end up regretting the most. Now, how can you avoid those regrets? Well, number 1, do the research. Hopefully these videos are helping. We have a newsletter that you can be a part of to see what things are going on in Fort Collins, a breakdown. We do weekly lives about what's happening in City Council in Fort Collins and the greater Northern Colorado area. But ultimately, doing your research is super important. Talking to schools if you got kiddos, visiting those schools, talking to the principals, doing tours. We've found that people, when they come out and do a week here, a week there, or even, people have come out and done months of staying to truly understand if they like the area before committing to moving to the area, and especially before committing buying. But doing your research is probably the most important thing you can do to hedge against the potential of regret. Number 2, and this is coming from a licensed real estate agent that makes a living off of buying and selling real estate in Fort Collins in Northern Colorado, and that is rent before you buy. Now, that could be a short-term rental for 3 months. Some of our favorite clients moved from the Texas area and they rented short-term rental for 3 months, got boots on the ground, were able to tour homes, get in there, get to know the area, and when they bought, they knew that they wanted to be in that area, they knew they wanted to be in that school system, and they absolutely love the area. And they are probably some of the most engaged people that I know in the community and have fallen in love with Fort Collins, Northern Colorado. In fact, their fathers moved here, brother-in-laws moved here, the family came, and then multiple friends came as well. So these people fully are engaged and rented before buying. Now, like I said, on the spectrum, we've worked with people who have bought sight unseen and as well as rented for 2 years and then bought. We think that if you're coming here, staying an extended period of time, unless you already know the area, a great option is at minimum doing a little bit of a short-term rental, a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever that might be before you feel comfortable buying a house. Number 3, and that's getting full family buy-in. If you're moving here with a family, with kids, both partners, like I said before, need to be either 100% engaged, both of them, or at least 100% and 80%. And the kids, depending on their age, need to be introduced in different ways. Middle schoolers who are leaving their competitive sports teams, that are leaving their friends back home, the best thing that we found with families with middle schoolers is right, wrong, or indifferent, that relationship falters for whatever reason. It might sound negative and it might not be the best thing to say, but it is easier for those kids, if that relationship falters for whatever reason, to engage and want to build the friendships here. It's too easy for kids to be connected by internet, video games, cell phones, whatever, to never feel like they need to leave back home to get engaged here. So middle schoolers are definitely tough. I'm not saying that I recommend breaking that relationship by any means, but I'm just saying trying to figure out how, rather than staying fully tied to the previous location, getting fully engaged in the new. But getting full family buy-in, partnership buy-in, is definitely super important. Number 4, engage the community. There are a lot of different things that are out there that are affordable, free, and available to you on a weekly basis. Like at the Welcome Center downtown, there are the Ram Talks that are free every other Wednesday that they've got somebody come in and talking to, and there is space down in Old Town. Going to the holiday lighting ceremony, getting involved with different volunteer groups, like a friend of ours that just got involved with the Matthews House in Fort Collins. But I think you have to be fully intentional about what your actions are to engage the community, to get the full buy-in and experience that you're looking for to have a successful move to Northern Colorado. And then finally, number 5, having realistic expectations. We had some clients who ended up not moving here from El Paso, Texas. They were a couple of doctors, but they didn't necessarily have realistic expectations on what the price of homes were for what they were wanting. You know, they wanted like a 5,000 square foot house backing to water with mountain views in Fort Collins proper for under $1 million. That doesn't exist. So hopefully setting realistic expectations about how hard it's going to be to build relationships. Intentionality is extremely important. There's gonna be some bumps along the way. There's gonna be some challenges, but hopefully with the full buy-in, you can overcome those. But I think the most important thing you can do is having realistic expectations, which we would love to be a resource for you if you have questions. We've had a lot of clients that either have become clients or haven't become clients because they've asked us questions, we were real with them, we were transparent with them, and either for one reason or another it didn't work, whether that be a job relocation that didn't come to fruition, or maybe those expectations weren't being met, so they decided not to move here. I think the people who decide not to move here are just as important as the people who do decide to move here. Because ultimately, Fort Collins, in my opinion, is a phenomenal place, a wonderful place to live, and we want others that really love the area as well to pour into the community and not feel like it's a burden on them in their lives and resent being here in its totality. So you tell me, do people regret moving to Fort Collins in Northern Colorado? Absolutely, but I think it's few and far between, and hopefully with this video, amongst the many others that are out there and other tools, other questions, other resources, you can find out if Fort Collins, Northern Colorado is right for you. And if it is, again, give us a call, text, or email. We would love to be an asset on your team. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.